Hi everyone, I'm Dr. RakheeYadav, consultant pediatrician. Welcome to my live session today. I have a very special guest today, Dr. Thirunavukarasu Rajoo, or I call him Dr. Thiru, who is the Honorary General Secretary of Malaysian Medical Association. Let me just add him in, give me a minute. Hi, Dr. Thiru. Hi.
Hi, Rakhee, okay?
Yeah, all okay. You're all good.
Okay, yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Okay, quite clear. I don't have a
Okay,
mute function.
No, you don't have a mute function, so
My
you
God.
can't mute yourself. Make
I
sure
have
the
to tell my
background.
wife and everybody to keep quiet. I cannot mute, so don't make noise.
Thank you so much for taking the time out today to do a live session with me. I know it's a little bit of a hot topic out there at the moment, contract doctors in Malaysia and how we can help them as members of Malaysian Medical Association. Some people are confused. MMA has two different things, the Malaysian Medical Act, the Malaysian Medical Association. So just to clarify, the two MMA that we're talking about today is the Malaysian Medical Association. And we have with me Dr. Thiru. I actually call you Arasu. So it's quite new for me to call you Dr. Thiru, but I
Just call
think
me
the name
Arasu.
is Arasu. Excellent.
Yes.
Well, so would you like to introduce yourself? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rakhee, for this opportunity. I think it's good that we reach out a lot of people through various form of social platform. Okay, I'm basically a practicing GP. Okay, I'm actually very new to MMA for everyone's information. Actually, I decided to come into MMA in 2015, late 2015, when we had an issue that was dispensing separation. So during that period of time, there were lots of engagement, lot of talks were going on in various platforms. So I thought rather than just making a lot of noise outside, I thought I must look for a platform. So that was my first AGM that I attended MMA. So that's how I got into MMA. And then since then, I've been very active. I believe at the end of the day, you need a platform. Individually, sometimes it's quite difficult for you to fight something, to stand for something. But of course, with social media, you're a very big influencer. Of course, you can do that. And people like me, I do not have big influence. So we need to use a platform. So what else the platform? So when we see there's an established platform, which the resources are already there, so you just, optimize it. So that's how I got into the Malaysian Medical Association.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to go straight right into it. What are contract doctors in Malaysia? Can you tell us the definition?
You see, the word contract, that means you have contractual agreement with your employer. That means it's an agreement between an employer and employee, whereby there are terms and conditions in the contractual agreement. And normally contracts have a duration. It can be 1 year, it can be 2 years, it can be 5 years, it can be 10 years. It all depending on the willing buyer, willing seller. But if you look at the history, how these contract doctors came into place, it came into place in 2016. And then we must go back and see what was happening in 2013, 14, and 15. You see, at that time, the houseman waiting period was 1 year, 1.5 years. And there were a lot of issues were raised why the waiting period is very, very long. And from the parents, from the pressure from various society was being raised. And then at the same time, KKM also published also that 25 to 30% of those who are doing housemanship are not completing their housemanship within 2 years. So these were the issues. So one is a backlog and one was those who are not performing. So that is where they came out with the contract doctors issue. But actually this, in terms of performance is another issue that to be handled. But in terms of the, the waiting period, that I would say it is because of the failed policy of the government. It is all because of mushrooming of medical colleges. There is no control. There is no control in the supply. When you have excess supply, where do they go? So this was self-inflicted. In fact, the Malaysian Medical Association was highlighting about these in 2004 that do not approve many medical colleges. You must have control. At the end of the day, it is not the quantity, but it's always the quality. So this is a little bit a summary background of why this thing started taking place in 2016.
So now that we know we have contract doctors from 2016 onwards, that's like almost 5 years already. So what are the issues that they're currently facing?
You see, currently I think a few years ago, see, the main issue they're facing is that one is who is going to get a permanent job? Or if their contract get extended, who is going to get it? Okay, there is no clarity, there is no transparency. Everybody need to be very sure. Okay, if I'm going to be I'm a houseman, after 2 years, then I got 2 years contractual agreement. And after 2 years, I need to be very clear and what are the criteria. And this criteria must be very objective criteria. That means it is a measurable criteria whereby nobody can dispute or because the boss likes me, because I'm very goody with the boss, and then so I get my contractual agreement. This kind of feeling should not be there. So that is why there must be very, very objective, measurable criteria whereby these doctors, they're very clear. They know if I ever do this, my job is permanent there. So they cannot be chasing after rainbows. They cannot be running in a dark thinking that, oh, I will be getting it. So the government must be, it is a responsibility of the government. They must be very, very crystal clear about this. So these are the issues. And then recently, when there was the issue of ED 41 and 43, you see, when you promote somebody or give certain position, it must be very clear. There should not be any form of discrimination. You see, but don't worry, I can speak anything because I'm in the private sector. Okay, only the government sector, they have a gag order. So I'm free for all. I'll tell everything today. So I got the mandate from I got the mandate from my president as well, and my exco. So basically, see, I mean, we all are doctors. We went through 5-6 years of medical school, and then we went through housemanship, and then went through MO-ship. You have actually spent your prime time of your life, 20 to 30 years, 19 to 30 years of your prime time of your life to be trained to do something. And you cannot be putting them in a limbo. You see, and then when they started the UD 41 and 43, you see, two people doing the same job and different pay grade. How do you think the nurses or others will respect them? You see, you're putting a stigma. Yeah. You're putting a stigma. Yeah. That is when MMA also fought for that. The only, I think, mistake that MMA is doing is that maybe we are not very actively engaging in social media, because actually there's a lot of work that actually we do. We do that. Sometimes we do not have time for this, but that is our mistake. So even for UD 41, there's a lot of work. You see, when you talk about issues, it is not as straightforward as, okay, I want this, tomorrow it happens. There are bureaucratic processes that you have to go through. Okay, unfortunately, these are the bureaucratic processes. It's not like the private sector. You see, I'm the CEO of my company. I make decision. Okay, my directors tell me this one, so I just bulldoze, I make a decision. But in the government sector, you have various bureaucracy. Here you have Pusat Sumber Manusia, and then you have JPA, and then you have Ministry of Finance, and then the final uptaker of this is Ministry of Health. You see, so can you imagine the complexity of you to deal with different agencies? And in fact, MMA, we do sit in a committee called Majlis Bersama Kerajaan, whereby they are representative of QPAX, and then the various other organizations, including JPA, KSU's office. So many of them are there. So this is where a lot of the issues are actually brought up, because it is a process. They need to do a paperwork, they need to do paperwork, they need to do submission. These are the processes that we have to go through. And this involves hundreds of hours of meetings actually. Hundreds of hours of meeting. I wish it's very simple as that.
Why is it taking so long?
Come again?
Why is it taking so long? Like, I mean, I understand it takes a lot of meetings, but just maybe break it down into simple. MMA brings forward to who, and then that person brings forward to the ministers, and how does it go? Like, break it down in simple.
The issue is very simple, straightforward. The issue is all about dollar and cent. You see, whatever said and done, at the end of the day, it is an economic decision.
Yeah.
It is an economic decision. Very simple.
Yeah.
JPA says, I got no jawatan. Why I got no jawatan? There is no funds. Why there is no funds? Because your budget allocation. How much Malaysia is allocating on the budget for healthcare? They're only spending 3.9% or close to 4%. And from that 4%, 49% of that budget is actually from the private sector. So how much actually is the government spending? The WHO says 7 to 8%. So how much? Actually, they're underspending. So the irony is that the Auditor General said underfunded, overworked, and then understaffed. So what I don't understand, we do not even have to talk about it. Today, both of us
Yes.
don't even have to speak about it here. This
Yes.
is a common sense where the policy makers should know, they should know their priority. They must know
Yes.
this is what need to be priority. And this is nothing new. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is nothing new. So basically, the finance ministry need to allocate budget. But of course, their question is that where do I get the money? That's not my problem. That is your problem.
Yeah.
If you are the Minister of Finance, if you are the government, that is your way, either taxation or whatever way you do. See, that is why you are elected to be sitting there in the government. You make the
Exactly.
policy, you find the way how to generate income so that you can revamp the healthcare system. You can invest into the invest into the human capital. At the same time, you create a sustainable a robust healthcare system. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's all about economy.
Yes. Wow. Okay. I mean, we always knew that there would be money behind the whole thing, but there's so many other issues besides their pay grade being different. They're not given chances to move into the master's program. They're not given certainty as to when, what their job scope is. I mean, we're all seeing viral letters going on where the housemaids are told to do nursing job or hospital assistant work. There's no proper job scope for them. So there's so many issues at stake, and we've been fighting this battle. Like you said, it's a battle that shouldn't even be in the first place. Like if they had a contract system, it should be for everybody across the board. All housemaids are contract, maybe something like that, and then you follow a process of maybe then you, like you said, measurable guidelines. You are assessed, and then you move forward. Okay, so this group of people, we know that they have an interest in pediatrics, just to say. So these group of people are given the opportunity for masters as well as the external paper MRCPCH equally. There should not be some discrimination in terms of race, in terms of contract or non-contract. So that should, it just blows my mind that suddenly now everybody is aware of it because of the whole hartal situation, and we know, like you said, social media plays a huge role. And we know that we've been fighting this battle for 2016, 5 years. So 5 years we have been fighting this battle. So now, would you like to tell me a little bit what MMA is and what is the role that MMA can play?
You see, basically, MMA is just Malaysian Medical Association. It is trying is from its members. Okay, in the last, basically, MMA before the name MMA came out, it was known as Streets Medical Association, which was established in 1890. 1890. So it was a branch of the British Medical Association, and then the 1950s, and then it became Malaysian Medical Association, and then we moved on from there. So Malaysian Medical Association, we are very active in three main areas. One is at the policy level. That means we are involved in various subcommittees giving our inputs, okay? And then in terms of regulatory issues, and also sometimes in the private sector, trade issues also we get involved. So when we say policy matters, of course, like for example, contract doctors, houseman thing, okay? And then actually there are a lot of things that MMA has done. But what are the lot of things? In the 1981, they did a rule to work. Sorry, work to rule. Work to rule. Today, when you and I, we were housemen and MOs, whatever the incentives we were getting is what MMA fought in the 1980s. So a lot of the perks that we're getting, I think the rural doctors.
Yeah, rural allowances.
Yeah, allowances. I think the flying doctors.
Allowances,
Yes. All these things were actually
on-call
fought by.
allowances, I
Yes.
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
So all these things actually fought by MMA, our predecessors on those days. Only thing, when you're involved in the association, you actually do not have time. Like today from morning, I'm on another meeting. So I'm under the COVID-19, this Greater KL Task Force. 10:30 meeting, finish 1:30, then again 6:30, 6 o'clock meeting. So we go through a lot of meetings. But when you go through a meeting, we do highlight. We are very vocal. I'm just like how I'm speaking it. That's how I speak in the meetings anyway. Because and then So of course the membership is growing. I would say in the last 5 years, we have an increase by almost 4,000 new members.
Wow.
And of course, when you talk about membership, membership itself is a global issue. Many of the NGOs, many of the associations globally, not only medical, other associations as well, the interest, especially the younger generation with the accessibility of social media, they do not see the need to be associated with an association. So this is where when your association is strong, see, your association is strong means your members are strong, your members are united. Okay, that numbers gives you the strength when you go on the negotiation table. This is where the doctors must realize. And then,
Yeah.
and then as an association, we must remember, first, you're a generalist, then you become a pediatrician, you have your pediatric association. Okay, then maybe you become a pediatric endocrinologist. Then probably when the numbers of pediatric endocrinology increases, maybe you have 100, maybe they want to have their own association. But that's normal. That is normal. But what doctors must understand is that they all should join the Malaysian Medical Association. And Malaysian Medical Association is not a Sendirian Berhad. For example, the president is only for 1 year. For me, Secretary General, maximum you can be there for 5 years. So there's an election. And what we have done last year, we have even changed the constitution to allow all the 14,000 members to vote. That means anybody can stand and anybody can vote. So it is we have actually democratized MMA in the last 5 years. A lot of things we have broken up.
Yeah.
So we have done that. Facebook, and today we accept criticism, we accept feedback. I mean, we do not take anything personally. There's nothing for us to take personally anyway. So the association is not my association. I mean, it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to all of us, all the 14,000 members.
Yeah. So what can MMA do to support? Like you said, we've brought it up with the ministers. We've brought it up at many spaces, and now we're going social media. There are even Instagram pages that are trying to support doctors. I know a lot of my friends, a lot of doctors are also in. I mean, supporting it. We as Malaysian Pediatric Association, also we support the contract doctors. But what else can we do? I mean, the support doesn't seem to touch anything. The ministers are not bothered. There's minggu depan, next week. Nothing seems to be happening. What else can we do to have
Actually,
some progress?
This is where we must think out of the box. Today, we are talking among the same circle, doctors, right? Okay. A little bit of what we have been doing. I saw today somebody sent me a picture of, they said, one group said MMA is now morning after the date of on the 12th of July or something like that. I was
wondering whether you saw that.
For me, I take that as a joke. Sometimes it's exciting to see, but I can understand their frustration. If I'm in their shoes, I will be equally frustrated. I'm not angry with them. You see what we have done from the 12th July. Okay, before that we had a meeting with the finance minister. Okay, we had a meeting with the minister, YBMK and DG, and in fact last week Friday I had the opportunity to also meet up with the Prime Minister. We had a meeting on another subcommittee, a steering committee on health system, and whereby I had the opportunity to speak to him directly in the presence of Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, and also Minister of Prime Minister Department. We just brought up the same issue again. And in fact, we asked the Prime Minister that you must make a decision on this. And this involves the lives of 23,000 doctors. Lives means their livelihood, their future, and their parents.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have done that level. So what else we can do is that we must work together. We must get involved the Member of Parliament. Parliament is going to convene on the 26th of July. We must make it an issue. MMA has been issuing statement. What is stopping doctors to get their parents to issue a statement? Right? You have 23,000 doctors, you got 23,000 parents. Your father and mother, right? And they got their family members. So these are all our voters. The government will only be afraid of the public. So we must make the issue, we must keep the issue alive. When you go to the press, it's not only the association make noise, it's not only the doctors keep making noise. People who are directly affected, the patients. These are the doctors who are going to treat all of us in the future. These are the doctors who are going to become a specialist. They're going to be in the system. So we need to create awareness to the public. We must garner the support from the public. So everybody must play a role. If you know someone, let's say a member of parliament, or you know an influencer who was non-medical influencer, speak to them and ask them to speak it up. And then go to Twitter, keep the issue alive. These are the areas where I think collectively we can do that. MMA will do all its part. And I think we are also being vocal. We have been very vocal. And in fact, we are going to write to the Prime Minister again. I think tomorrow we'll be writing a letter to the Prime Minister on the issue as a follow-up. See, that is a proper channel you do things. That is how engagements are done. You cannot go there and then thumb the table to them. They won't listen to us. See, at the end of the day, who will they listen? They will listen to their voters, not you and me.
Yeah.
So how do we make ourselves powerful? That is by talking to outside. Those who are influencers or not medical line. So let them speak up. I think last week one MP has raised the issue. So we need more MPs. I'm very sure all doctors will know at least one MP. Pressure your
Yep.
MPs. Bring up this
Yes.
issue. Make it a national issue and keep the issue alive.
Yes. I think blaming MMA is not just the only way out. We are all in this together, and it's. I think you rightly said every doctor has two parents. So 2,000 over doctors, you've got another 4,000 over parents. So that's a huge number there itself that are fighting for the rights of their children, fighting for the rights of the future specialists, fighting for the rights of our healthcare, future healthcare. Um, all of this put aside, now there's a new movement known as the strike, the Hartal contract doctors. So, I mean, I know all about Hartal in the country, and I was always brainwashed when I was in the government that if you ever Hartal, if you ever take a strike, if you join even little protests on the road, like, oh, I want brown hair instead of blue hair or whatever, that also disciplinary action can be taken against you. So now what about contract doctors? Is there any difference between permanent staff and contract doctors going on strike? And do we support this strike?
Okay, MMA do not condone strikes. Okay. The other thing is that, we are very concerned about these contract doctors. And we must understand, when you have a contractual agreement, there are terms and conditions in that agreement. It's an employee and employer. It's a willing buyer, willing seller. If you go against your employer, which is against whatever you signed off, your contract will be terminated. You see, of course, many of them not going to be happy what I'm just telling, but this is a fact. This is the reality. We have also consulted the Medical Legal Society of Malaysia for legal support because we know that some of our members were also harassed. Okay, we also harassed. I think we also issued a statement on that. We have also working together with the Bar Council of KL. Okay, in the event what happened. Yes. So we're doing a lot of things. So we are very concerned when these young doctors, if they were to go on a strike. What happens next? Just like they say, oh, MMA, code black on the 12th, what happened next? So, even though we're doing a lot of things, but now the question is that what happens? Whatever strike they do, what happened next? You see, what happened next? What happened after that? You see, so basically there are a lot of legal implications. Of course, you ask 10 lawyers will give different opinions, but at the end of the day, it is their future. It is their future, and then I think we have spoken enough about the issues. Probably what they should do is that go back and look at their contracts, and see about it. That's the best advice actually we can give them to our fellow colleagues. And we understand their frustration. There is no clarity about the future. Of course, they are trying to vent out their frustration, and in fact, we have also brought up to the authorities why they're doing this, even though we do not condone. But we empathize with them.
I mean, it's very tricky because I see a huge group of the young doctors that are very pro-strike. It's a bit difficult because you at one side, we are the senior doctors and we are already past this whole thing and we're saying don't strike because it's, your whole future could be affected. And then on the other hand, you have the young doctors that have been in the field for 1-2 years, and for them, they feel this is the only way out. But I think like what you rightly said, check your contract, and if you have friends or family that are lawyers, let them go through that contract as well and see where and what is written in between and behind that to basically support whether you should go on strike or not. But at this point, we can't condone a strike because that's not the way to go. We just have to create force in numbers, get our family, get our friends, get everybody to rally behind us and speak to the MPs, speak to everybody so that more and more people are aware. And like you said, don't let this die, the Beatles also died off at one point, but everybody still knows who the Beatles are. So we want everybody to remember that this contract issue was a huge issue in our country. And we will never forget that the sacrifices that a lot of these contract doctors have done. They deserve equal justice. They deserve equal right to a pathway for specialization. And I cannot say I understand, but like you said, we empathize and we know that this is tough for everybody, especially the family. And do you have any maybe last messages that you might want to say to them, or is there any tips maybe to them on what to do in the next 1 week, just days from the so-called Hartal?
Okay, basically what I can assure them is that, of course, I'm in their position, this was talking the same thing. MMA will stand by them. We will do whatever we can to the highest level. which we are doing, we'll continue to do and continue to push on that part. And on their part, I just like to remind them, they are, as a civil servant, they are bound with their Perintah Am and also code of medical practice. So they must think very carefully about that. Okay, whatever action they do, at the end of the day, every action there is going to be a reaction. Okay, so I think they're old enough to make a decision. Old enough to make a decision. At the end of the day, do not make emotional decision. That is very important. So most of the time, when we make emotional decision, that emotional decision can be detrimental to us. So my advice to them is that take a deep breath. Okay, stay focused.
Just like to end by saying that Malaysian Medical Association, Dr. Thiru and Dr. Rakhee, I'm speaking from Malaysian Pediatric Association. We stand by you. We will fight whichever way that we can. We will support you in whatever way that we can. However, we will not be there for the strike. So this is just a lot to take. For those who've listened in, if you have friends and family who are contract doctors, please tell them, continue the fight and we will stand by you. Thank you so much, Dr. Thiru. This has been an interesting conversation, and thank you so much for coming live with me. I know this, even though it's a controversial, hot topic, but thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking and clarifying so many facts with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakhee. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.